Hello and welcome to Lost Love Mystery, where we explore the twists and turns of love, the pain of betrayal, and the mysteries that lie hidden in the heart. The evening had been going perfectly, the laughter echoing off the walls of the grand hall as Isabella grinned from ear to ear. She had orchestrated everything down to the finest detail. Her grand speech, the way everyone was supposed to marvel at her grace. But there was something underneath it all, something I couldn't ignore. As I watched her, so composed in front of everyone, I couldn't shake the sense that something was off. My instincts had warned me before, but tonight, they screamed at me. Then it happened. She stood up in front of everyone, the room falling silent as she cleared her throat. I thought she was going to thank everyone for coming, to express gratitude for the evening. But instead, she turned to me, her smile faltering, and uttered words that shattered everything. I've been thinking for a while, and I believe it's time we ended this. My marriage to William. It's been a long time coming. The room was still, frozen, as if the very air had thickened. I stared at her in disbelief. She had planned this. The entire night had been a setup for this public humiliation. I could feel the weight of the stares of our friends and family, the judgment in their eyes. But more than the shock, what struck me was the coldness in her voice. The calculated way she had turned our personal issues into a public spectacle. What is this? I demanded, my voice sharp, my anger rising with every passing second. But Isabella, unfazed, went on, detailing her unhappiness as if it were a business transaction, as if she were merely closing a deal. My chest tightened, my heart hammered in my throat, and I could feel the heat of betrayal surging through me. The whispers around the room were deafening, but all I could hear was the raw sting of her words. She wasn't just asking for a divorce. She was dehumanizing me, tearing down everything we had built. For a moment, I could only stand there, stunned, processing the enormity of what she had just done. But as the shock began to settle, the fury inside me bubbled over. This wasn't a mere breakdown in our marriage. It was an attack on my dignity, my identity. It wasn't enough for her to leave me. She wanted to rub my face in it. She wanted me to feel the full weight of her abandonment in front of our closest friends and family. Her parents, who had been silent witnesses to the unfolding disaster, exchanged uncomfortable glances. Even they couldn't deny that she had crossed a line. Is this really happening? I spat out, the venom thick in my voice. Her eyes flickered nervously, but she stood her ground, her defiance unshaken. I didn't even recognize the woman standing before me anymore. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, anger, disbelief. But above all, there was one thought that cut through everything. This was the moment I would make her pay. This was no longer about salvaging our relationship. It was about taking back my power, taking control of a situation she thought she could dominate. She had underestimated me. She had miscalculated the depths of my resolve. The room was still thick with tension as Isabella finished her public declaration. The silence was unbearable, each second stretching longer than the last. I could feel every set of eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. I could hear my pulse roaring in my ears, my hands clenched at my sides. But I refused to let my emotions take control. This was her battle, not mine. I would take my time, let the weight of her betrayal sink in before responding. But I couldn't help myself. As her cold eyes met mine, I saw her attempt to stand tall, as though she was proud of what she had just done. She was oblivious to the storm she had just unleashed. "You don't get to speak now," I said, my voice low, controlled, but filled with an undeniable edge. Isabella blinked, taken aback by the intensity of my words, but I wasn't finished. "You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone, and I'll just stand here and take it? You're wrong." There was a flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it was quickly masked by defiance. "I had to do this," she said, almost pleading. "You've been distant. I had to make you see." Her voice trailed off, as if she didn't fully believe the lie she was trying to sell. "See? See what, exactly?" I stepped forward, my anger boiling over, but I remained calm. "That you've been unfaithful to me emotionally for months? That you've been plotting this, calculating your exit, all the while pretending everything was fine? You've lied, Isabella, you've lied to me, to yourself, and to everyone who believed in us. Her face flushed, but she tried to push back. I didn't mean to hurt you, she stammered. I just couldn't keep living this lie. Living a lie? I shook my head, laughing bitterly. No, you've been living in your own little fantasy. But it's over now. This isn't about saving face anymore. This is about me making sure you pay for every single moment of this betrayal. I could feel the anger radiating off me, a fire I hadn't known I still had. How could you? After everything we've been through, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. But they weren't the tears of regret. They were the tears of someone who realized too late that they had pushed me too far. I gave you everything, Isabella, I said, my voice steady, but every word cutting deeper. I loved you, but you destroyed us. You humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. You made me feel like I wasn't enough. And now you want me to forgive you because you're sad about it? I scoffed. No, it doesn't work like that. As her sobs grew louder, I stood my ground. Get out, I ordered, my tone final, unwavering. Pack your things, Isabella. I want you gone. Tonight. She hesitated, looking around the room, perhaps hoping someone would step in and defend her. But no one did. Her family had already left the room, her parents avoiding her gaze. My brother was the first to break the silence, his words sharp, condemning her actions. You've made your bed. Now lie in it. Isabella's face twisted in disbelief as I spoke. She couldn't comprehend the finality in my voice, the strength of my words. For the first time, she looked vulnerable, stripped of her usual arrogance. But it was too late for regrets. She had made her decision, and now it was time for me to make mine. You think you can come back from this? I asked, my tone dripping with disdain. You think I'll just forget what you did? Forget how you made me feel like I was nothing, like I wasn't worth fighting for? She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off with a sharp gesture. No, I'm done with your excuses. You've had your chance. You've had every opportunity to fix this, and instead, you chose to destroy it. She swallowed hard, her lips trembling, but I wasn't moved. Get out, I repeated, my voice hard as steel. Pack your things. I want you gone. Now. For a moment, she stood frozen, as if waiting for something. Perhaps a change of heart, a moment of mercy. But I wasn't the man she had married anymore. I was someone else now, someone stronger, someone who would never allow himself to be humiliated again. I'll go, she said, barely above a whisper. But you're making a mistake. I looked her in the eye, my voice a low growl. I'm not making a mistake, Isabella. I'm reclaiming my life. You're the one who's made a mistake, and now you have to face the consequences. As she turned to leave, Alejandro, who had been lingering in the background, stepped forward. But I wasn't going to let him near her. Stay the hell away from her, I snapped, my voice carrying a weight that made him hesitate. You don't get to play the hero now. Isabella's eyes flickered to him, then back to me, her face pale, her confidence completely shattered. But I didn't care. This was my moment, my victory, and I was not going to let her, nor anyone, take it from me. As they left, I felt a strange emptiness settle in my chest. It wasn't triumph I felt, it was relief. The weight of the betrayal, of the years of manipulation, was finally lifted. My house, once filled with tension and silence, now felt like my own again. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Days passed, and the silence in the house was deafening. The emptiness left by Isabella's departure seemed to linger in every room. My mother stayed with me for a while, offering comfort, but I knew I had to face this alone. It was my life, my choices, and my consequences. Isabella had made her move, but now I had to rebuild. I didn't reach out to her. I didn't need to. Her actions had made everything crystal clear. She was gone, and there was no going back. Her apologies, those desperate, hollow messages she sent over the following days, meant nothing. She could beg all she wanted, but I knew the truth now. It wasn't about her pain or regret. It was about what she had done to me, what she had taken from me. And then, just as I was starting to move on, I got a text from her. It was long and pleading, an attempt to undo the damage she had caused. She claimed she was sorry, that she regretted everything, that she hadn't meant to hurt me. But her words felt like lies, like a person scrambling to cover their tracks after they had already been caught. She sent me a screenshot of her resignation letter from her job, as though that somehow made up for everything. She had ended things with Alejandro, she said, and was staying at a friend's house. But I wasn't interested in her excuses. I didn't need to hear them. I didn't care if she was sorry. It was too late for apologies. I didn't reply. But she didn't stop. Day after day, she bombarded me with messages. She called me. She tried to get me to meet her. But I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I wasn't going to fall for her act. The damage was done, and I was done with her. A few days later, she showed up unannounced at my door. I had been getting ready for work when I heard the buzz of the intercom. The last thing I wanted was to face her again, but I couldn't ignore her. Despite every instinct telling me to turn her away, I opened the door. She stood there, disheveled, her face streaked with tears. She tried to make herself sound reasonable, to justify her actions. She asked how I could say such cruel things to her, accusing me of making her feel like a monster. But I wasn't the one who had destroyed everything between us. She had done that all on her own. You destroyed us, I said, my voice unwavering, my anger boiling beneath the surface. And now you want me to fix it? To act like nothing happened? Her words were full of excuses, but I wasn't listening anymore. You think you're the only one who was hurting? I asked. What about me? What about the humiliation I had to endure? You publicly ripped me apart in front of everyone we know. I could see her faltering. She had no defense left. I'm not going to fix this, I continued. I don't even want to. You broke the trust we had. And I'm not going to pretend like that's something that can be repaired. Her face twisted in frustration, and she accused me of giving up too easily, of not fighting for our relationship. You should have thought about that before you destroyed everything, I said coldly. The silence between us was suffocating. Finally, I opened the door wider. It's over, Isabella. Now leave. She hesitated for a moment, then stormed out, slamming the door behind her. And just like that, it was over. Months passed since the divorce was finalized, and with each day, I felt the weight of the past lifting off my shoulders. Isabella had tried to make it hard on me, filing for spousal support at one point, as though her resignation letter and her so-called remorse would change the fact that she had completely destroyed our marriage. But I wasn't backing down. Not for her. Not for anyone. The truth was, I had been done long before the divorce papers were signed. I had spent years trying to hold on to something that wasn't real, something that had been broken beyond repair long before she ever stood in front of everyone and humiliated me. When I reminded her that I had all the proof I needed to expose everything that happened that night, she backed off quickly. Her pride was all that mattered to her. The threat of further embarrassment was enough to make her retreat. With the divorce final, the relief was almost tangible. I could breathe again. The house, which had once been a battleground for our silent wars, was now my sanctuary. My life was mine once again, and for the first time in years, I felt free. But it wasn't just about getting rid of her. It was about getting rid of the weight I had carried for so long. I had been so focused on fixing things for her, on making her happy, that I had forgotten what it meant to make myself happy. I had sacrificed parts of myself, lost pieces of who I was, all in the name of keeping her satisfied. Now, it was different. I was focusing on me. Work became my escape, but not in the way it had before. It wasn't about avoiding my emotions. It was about rediscovering myself. I worked long hours, but it was for something more than just a paycheck. I was proving to myself that I could thrive on my own. And then, just as I had begun to find peace, an unexpected promotion came my way. It was a recognition of everything I had worked for, a sign that I had finally reclaimed my sense of self. It felt like validation, like a reward for everything I had endured, for the strength I had shown in walking away from a marriage that was suffocating me. Isabella had moved back in with her parents. I heard she was still unemployed, leaning on them for support, as she always had. It didn't surprise me. She had always taken the easy way out when things got tough. She had never been capable of handling things on her own. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. I had given her everything, and she had thrown it all away. She had humiliated me, and I had finally found the strength to walk away. It was her loss, not mine. Looking forward, I could finally see the possibilities. I had begun reconnecting with old friends, picking up hobbies I had abandoned, and considering traveling, things I had never been able to do while I was tied down by her. And though there were still moments of doubt, moments where I questioned my decisions, more often than not, I was at peace. Isabella had been so sure I would regret leaving her. She had been certain I would come crawling back. But standing here now, I couldn't think of a single reason to go back. I had reclaimed my life, and I wasn't looking back. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was all that mattered.